It's that time of year for spring cleaning. Did you know your Microsoft Teams Rooms device does a spring clean every night using something called maintenance windows? Stay tuned and I'll show you how it's done. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Mo Mondays. In this week's episode, I am going to be talking to you about nightly reboots, also known as maintenance windows. Now, if you are rocking a Microsoft Teams Rooms device, be it on Windows or Android, they need to be maintained. And as you know, if you know anything about PCs, while PC processes are running, it starts clogging up the memory, the cache starts filling up, and all sorts of things start to happen. So it's common knowledge that you should be rebooting your laptop or rebooting your desktop machine at least once every day, or once every week, according to some people. There's a lot of colleagues out there that I know that leave their PCs and their laptops switched on 24/7, and then they complain saying, oh, things have slowed down. You do need to reboot your machine every now and then. Now, of course, when it comes down to Microsoft Teams Rooms, the key thing from engineering is all about system stability. And in order to have system stability, Microsoft will enable something called a nightly reboot across all machines, which basically means there's a maintenance window that's set up. So if we take Microsoft Teams Rooms on Windows as an example, there's a maintenance window at 2 a.m. every morning, thereabouts. um, and it's been decided, with research and analytics and stuff, that is the time that pretty much most devices out there are not in use anymore. It's very rare that Teams Rooms devices are being used at 2 a.m. in the morning, local time. So around 2 a.m. every morning, the machine will initiate a restart and what we call a maintenance window. Now, key thing to know, it doesn't download your updates at that time. With a Teams Rooms device, when it's not in use, it will effectively download your updates when it's not being used in the background. And what it effectively does is it parks that update until the nightly reboot kicks in. So around 2 a.m., your machine will initiate the nightly reboot. It will then install any pending updates, but at the same time, the action of rebooting will clear the cache and clear the memory and have you with a very fresh machine the next working day. And that ensures that system stability, and that ensures those devices are designed to work out of the box without no slowdowns or anything along those lines. Now, 99.9% of the time, you as a user or as a partner that's installing these devices don't need to do anything. It's built into the code, it's built into the firmware, it has that nightly reboot set up, and it will automatically do that for you every single night. Now, of course, if the need arises, there is options for you to change what that window looks like, and you use like the Windows Task Manager to do that on Windows machines. But up until now, it was only really available on Microsoft Teams Rooms on the Windows platform. Now, Microsoft, with the latest Teams Rooms firmware updates on Teams Rooms on Android, have enabled that maintenance windows on the Android platform as well. Some OEMs already had this in as part of their own firmware, but now built in natively into the MTR app or the MTR firmware, you now have a maintenance window set up, which will also reboot Android machines as well. In the past, in the early days, there was no nightly reboot. But of course, as new features and things have landed, just like on a PC, for phone, for Android, it's a good idea to refresh the cache by effectively restarting that machine as well. So let me take you over onto my Teams Rooms and Android and show you exactly where that option is and how you can go ahead and enable it. Let's head over there right now. Now that I'm here at my Microsoft Teams Rooms on Android device, you'll see the front of room display showing up here right now. It may look slightly different from what you're using right now. The reason mine has additional icons across here is because I'm using it with a touchscreen. I've shown it on a previous Mo Mondays video, but if you are using a touchscreen, you can actually enable touchscreen controls, which then effectively will take it away from the touch controller that sits in the middle of the table and actually has it here on the front screen. I like it on the front screen. It's a little easier for people to use. Really, really easy to go in and set up those maintenance windows. Now, with the latest firmware, it's automatically set up for you anyway, so you don't have to really do anything. But if you did want to change it on Teams Rooms and Android, you do have the ability to do that. remember, with Teams Rooms on Windows, you do need to use the Windows Task Manager. Like I said, 99.9% of the time, there's no need for you to change anything. But actually, Microsoft make it fairly straightforward using Teams Rooms on Android. So let me show you how that's done. It's very simple. We simply head across to the More button and then go ahead and hit Settings. It will then bring up, of course, your normal settings option across here. You simply would then go ahead and hit the device settings and then admin settings. As soon as you hit admin settings, it will then ask you for your admin credentials. Enter your admin credentials across here. And then as soon as you do that, it will then give you access. Now, if you don't know your admin credentials and it's a brand new machine, usually it's the last 6 digits of the serial number. But hopefully you've already changed that. So if you've changed it, enter your details. You're then given with this screen across here. Now, the option that we're looking at is Teams admin settings across there. So you tap that Teams admin settings and it will bring you into that traditional Teams admin settings menu that we're used to on Teams Rooms and Windows. Now, really straightforward. You simply hit that first option, which is general. And then across the top here, it'll give you a bunch of options. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, because I'm using a touchscreen, I've enabled touchscreen controls, and I've showed you this before. You can tap that button and it'll bring your buttons across onto a touchscreen. But what we are looking for is just down here at the bottom. So right down here, we've got turn on daily maintenance window. Like I said, by default, it should be switched on. If it's not, go ahead, toggle it on, and then you've got a start and end time as well. So the start time is 2 a.m. to match Windows. And then, of course, the end time is 3 a.m. And then it will revert back to its kind of normal use. During that time, it will effectively reboot, apply any updates, any maintenance it requires, it will do. You probably also notice this if you have like a Android phone as an example. Android phones now with the latest update with Androids actually give you the option to do a reboot as well, because it's known and they're also within Android. You do need to restart your phone every now and then to clear the cache out and keep things flowing really well. Same principle applies on Teams Rooms and Android and Teams Rooms and Windows. 2 a.m. every morning is your maintenance window. It will then apply any updates. It will then do any maintenance actions that are needed. And then the next morning, you're ready to rock and roll. You can go in and change them, as I've showed you. On Android, it's really easy. You go into settings. On Windows, it's a bit more difficult. You open up the Windows Task Manager, and then you find the task that says nightly reboot, and then change the options across there. With that in mind, that's a nice, simple, easy one to do. Maintenance windows are super, super important for Microsoft Teams Rooms devices. Make sure it's enabled. You should never, ever turn it off, to be brutally honest with you. It should always be switched on. Set it up for about 2 a.m. every morning, unless you are working around that sort of time. And then the machine will just take care of itself. It will download any updates. It will apply the updates. It will do its maintenance. And then the next morning, you'll be ready to rock and roll. So with that in mind, guys, I just want to say thank you so much. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. It's a nice, short, easy one for today. And no doubt I shall see you guys next week. Ciao.